The sound effects in To Beep or Not to Beep are certainly better than the title. Now, ordinarily, I love a pun, love a good pun on To Be or Not to Be, but as I've mentioned before, I do not believe the Roadrunner says beep. I do believe he says meep. I know officially, in a lot of Warner Brothers literature, it's written as beep. I understand that, but I just cannot hear it as beep. Nevertheless, To Beep or Not to Beep is a really good Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoon. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, it's not really an unfortunate thing. I was going to say I enjoy it as much as I enjoy the others, and that is that I've yet to find a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoon that has sparked a passion in me. There are certain Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, Porky Pig cartoons that I love. There is still not a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner one that I love, but I guess it's not really unfortunate because I still enjoy it. And I still liked it. It just isn't anything amazing. But there were certain things in this that did stand out to me as being really effective. It starts off with Wile E. Coyote reading a cookery book, and it's talking about how the Roadrunner is the most delicious bird, and I love the fact that the Roadrunner kind of comes up right behind him as he's reading this book, and then, as is always the case, Wile E. Coyote sets out to try and capture the Roadrunner. And I won't go into any detail about any of the specifics, because obviously part of the entertainment of these cartoons is wondering just what Wile E. Coyote could possibly try next. But I will say my absolute favourite moment, and I genuinely adored this particular bit, is when he is leaning back on a giant spring. And the sound effect of that was so effective. I absolutely adored it. It felt so realistic, and I'd love to know how they got that sound. Maybe they used a real spring, I'm not sure. I'd love to know if there's kind of like a book on the Foley artists of Warner Brothers or something. If you can recommend anything of that effect, please, of course, do. Another bit that I loved is when... how do I describe this without spoiling anything? It's when Wile E. Coyote kind of goes away from the camera and then comes back towards it really quickly. I don't know if that makes any sense, but... And the third point that I think I really loved is... Okay, this is a tiny spoiler because I cannot really explain it without spoiling it. I'm about to say something that happens in this. So it's the bit where he's falling down, and he's falling, and he's falling, and he looks down at the ground. And you expect there to be some time, maybe we will pan down as well and look at the ground, look back up and he will smack. But the second he casts his eyes down towards the ground, split second after, all we see is him with his face in the ground. And I love that they kind of messed with the mind a bit, because when you expect him to look down, and for us, along with him, to have that moment of recognition of, oh no, I'm about to smack into the ground. But there's no time for that. He looks down, he smacks straight into that ground. And I really liked that. I thought that was very effectively done. Very entertaining. So I did enjoy it, and there were certain things in this specifically that did stand out to me as being really good. But it still isn't sparking anything in me that is as big a love as I have for some of the other characters and some of the other Warner cartoons. But maybe I will experience that at some point. But nevertheless, To Beep or Not to Beep, or To Meep or Not to Meep, is a really enjoyable Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoon. Very well animated. I don't believe I mentioned it's directed by Chuck Jones and Maurice Noble, released in 1963. Definitely one that I'm very happy to recommend.